Greetings, I'm Liz.
And I am Scandal.
And
Monica must have worked really hard to find these three together.
Let's find these three together. All right. Well,
Hi.
welcome back to Doki Doki Literature Club.
My entire accent is destroyed.
A lot of fun with this game, but if we listen to anybody speak between episodes at all, we're like accents. This is why we're still learning. And anyway, so what you're gonna be doing?
I know.
Okay.
So Monica must have worked really hard just to find these three, because otherwise she would have just found two.
Or just one. Or it would just be Sayori.
Or it just be Juanita. Okay, well, maybe that's why they were also delighted at the idea of a new member joining, or at least just by the idea, or by the possibility of a new idea of a new member for a new person for a new day for a Friday.
Okay,
Gonna
or
get down on Friday.
it's possible that they were just really glad that I finally fulfilled my duty of having promised to bring someone, and I brought someone, and I won't mention that, they're excited that you're not a girl.
I'm very insulted. Do you know what I am? Excuse you?
That you're not like the rest of us.
Oh my god, you are so rude. Okay, well, though I still really don't know if I can keep up with their level of enthusiasm about literature.
Which
Have I even questioned what literature is yet? Because I should question what literature is. Like, I just legit do not understand. Like, people talk about it in like college 101, and I swear to god I thought it was a college class, not something that you do for a club class. Okay,
So what you might want to know is that none of us have really talked about literature at all. And so you know that apparently we're all really enthusiastic about it, but we're really just enthusiastic about club, honestly.
clubture.
So, Splat, what kinds of things do you like to read?
I like to read hentai.
Oh.
Well, I mean, I didn't say that. I totally would not. I like to read otomes or visual novels which have nothing to do with sex or sexuality at all, because people are completely non-sexual, even when they are teenagers or minors, because people never contemplate this or ever are curious or ever look up material in relation and never lie about their age. Ever. Like, what even?
Okay, so just having this experience of my friends going, I said this thing, and I didn't say that, and it reminded me of this time where somebody was online and they made a post on Tumblr, and they're just like, okay, so I was babysitting one time, and I hurt myself, and so I was gonna cuss, and instead of saying fuck, because you can't say that in front of a little kid, I instead yelled cunt, and that was not better, and so I was suddenly watching my friend going, hentai, and then, oh shit, I mean yaoi, oh shit, I mean porn,
Shit.
And that was what went
Oh
through
shit,
my head.
I mean clopping.
Oh my god.
Well, considering how little I've read these past few years, I don't really have a good way of answering that. It's kind of like the people that you ask where they're like, what's your favorite movie? And they look at you and in all seriousness, they go, The Nightmare Before Christmas. And you go, you haven't watched any other movies, have you?
Yeah.
And not that it's a bad movie or anything, but sometimes you just go, oh my god, you really just haven't watched anything else. And that was totally a rib on myself, you guys, because I really do still like The Nightmare Before Christmas. It's one of the movies that I have that I'm just like, I love you. I watch it every single year for Christmas and for Halloween.
It's so good.
And it makes me so happy.
It's very charming. I was gonna say it's gonna be one of those things of going, so what you are is you're the opposite of, I'm gonna do this in big quotes here, the average man reading the articles. You're like, I just look at the pictures.
I know. I really like the pictures. They're very colorful and pretty, and I do not know if anybody actually worked on them or not. I didn't know that artists did art. Like, it's so weird. At one point, like, my mom, she explained to me that people illustrate kids' books, and I just had to look at her and go, what are you talking about? I didn't know that anybody actually had made money off of it.
Okay, so I have to say that every artistic pursuit I've ever done in my life, my entire family just stares at me like I'm an insane person, up to and including when I said, yeah, I'm doing some voice acting, and like a deadpan across the board to any one of them, to my mom, to my dad, to, a couple of my aunts, to my grandma.
Yeah.
There really was this, you're what?
Huh?
And going, voice acting, you record audio with your voice.
Like
and,
radio
and they go,
spots.
doing commercials or doing any kind of a voiceover, that
Audiobooks.
like audiobooks or over documentaries, anything in that. And really, like, my grandma was so cute about it. She was just like, well, I guess they must pay people for that, don't they? And it was just like,
oh my god,
this is a real legitimate job. It's okay. It's okay. And she's like, and so you do the voice acting and you can make money that way? And I'm like, if you do it a certain way, sure. You know, providing you get paid for your gigs, yeah.
Yeah, like, you know, shockingly, there's a lot of gigs that people do that they should not be doing without being paid, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like,
all right,
whoa.
anyway, so,
considering
not
how
reading.
little I've read, I just don't have a good way of answering that, so here we are. Manga? I'm gonna make somebody really angry. Manga. I know it's supposed to be manga. It's called manga, and like it's totally filled with things.
You wouldn't know what it is. It's a cultural thing. Says to a Japanese student in Japan.
Right. I mutter quietly to myself, sort of half joking. Natsuki's head suddenly perks up, and she goes, "Oh shit."
Oh God.
It looks like she wants to say something, but she keeps quiet.
Not much of a reader, I guess.
Well, that can change. I can just, like, gouge out my eyes and I will never read anything ever again.
What I meant was more of a... You don't seem as though you have a lot of passion for the written word right this minute, but perhaps this club can infuse you with some enthusiasm and connect you to our passion for reading as we, you know, discuss books and what's meaningful about them and how they've changed or affected our lives and how, you know, it's not all literature, period, bar none, anything written anywhere, but the things that we care about in books is something we could share.
Okay, well, so for me, real quick, dropping in really quickly, I have found it to be infinitely frustrating where people go, comics and manga and graphic novels are not good enough or the same as good literature, which pissed me off for forever. And I've actually laughed about it because you know what they're doing now? Now they're putting Shakespeare into comic format because they went, we can't figure out how to get kids to read this stuff because we've made it so boring and so uninteresting. And we went, no, but it has to be completely in this serious. It's like people who know how to badly teach history or people who badly teach social sciences or people who badly teach any of the courses that I ever dealt with in elementary school, in middle school, in high school, in any of them where you're just like, you guys do not know how to make this fun at all. Nobody, like, teaching teachers how to make stuff fun or interesting has been one of the most frustrating things I've ever run into in my life.
Which is why
accessible, I should say.
Which is why drunk history is so popular because they make it funny and interesting.
Yeah.
But I've covered this in a couple of other games, and I would tend to say that in reference to nonfiction, there's a lot of context that makes it interesting. So when, as a child with very little wide world context, trying to introduce them to nonfiction has very little place and room for it. Like there's very little mooring ground in the space of their mind.
Right.
And so if you're going, here's countries that you barely know what are, with people that you barely know what are, with events that you have no context for what the impact or merit or meaning of them are in any way are, it's very hard to keep any of those facts in your head or care about them because they're really just in a void. They're not attached onto anything. But if you really get down there and you're like, all right, so guys, here's Italia. Now let me tell you what actually happened.
Right?
But I was gonna say, but they actually have a really cool series of manga that they've done. That's a bunch of classic, like I think it's mostly British literature, and it's got like the Scarlet Letter, and it's got Jane Eyre, and it's got like a number of. Shoot, who's the really popular one that does the...
Oh, Jane Austen?
Yeah, it's got some Jane Austen books and stuff like that, and they really do. They turn
I love the fact that I didn't know exactly. I was like, Jane Austen?
Jane
That's
Austen.
really popular.
Jane Austen is the only name that I forget in, you know, like famous British literature, and I'm like, you know, the one that has all the movies and all the shows, and everybody loves her.
Well, do you know who did Jane Eyre?
I'd say that was probably her.
No.
No, it was somebody else.
Not at all. Charlotte Bronte.
Okay, Charlotte Bronte. I was going to say, that wasn't her. I was like,
no, I'm just saying, do you know who did the thing? You said, no, that's the only one I can't remember. And I'm like, that's a book title, though, versus an author.
Oh, right.
So
I wasn't listing authors. I was just saying, but anyways, it was just really, it's been really fun to see the young people that I know pick these up and go, it's a manga with cool manga illustration with huge ass eyes and the Scarlet Letter sewed onto, you know, the adorable dress.
Well, and also giving people something that they can more attach to. Again, like, I appreciate that, honestly, in that way, you've made it now more accessible to people who are younger. So I always had a reputation when I was growing up. I was reading at a much higher level than basically what they expected for kids my age to be reading at.
The exact opposite of me.
Well, you had dyslexia, though,
no, I
so
know,
you
but
were
I was just
struggling
like,
really
both of us,
hard.
again, we have these really diverse backgrounds.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But they also had introduced a really stupid program when I was growing up, too, called accelerated reading, if anybody in the audience has any idea what I'm talking about for the United States, where they were like, we've basically graded each of these of books and said that they give you a certain number of points. And at the end of the month, you're supposed to have read a certain number of books to get a certain number of points. And you're supposed to take a certain number of quizzes in association with those to earn enough points to be able to pass your reading/literature class.
Okay, I just want to be like, to earn enough points to still be allowed to stay in literature class.
Or basically so you can get a passing grade for something.
Yeah, right.
Like, I couldn't remember exactly, but it was super new to me. Like, it was going on, like, because I'd moved several times, and I ran into it, actually, when I moved out to Idaho when I was younger, and I was like, what is this program? Because I was just like, I just read. It wasn't actually back east where I used to live at all. It just existed out in the West Coast, and I was really confused by it. And I didn't understand why everybody had it, because I was just like, of course kids love to read. Why wouldn't kids love to read? Like, I love to read.
I'm a, quiet, nerdy, antisocial shut-in. I love to read. Why wouldn't everyone love to read?
Right? And going, what are you reading? I'm reading Lord of the Rings. I'm reading all these different books. I'm reading Animorphs every single day. I'm reading all these different things all the time. It's like that was what I read. Well, that could change, I guess. Wait, what am I saying? Oh my god, I spoke without thinking after seeing Yuri's sad smile. Anyway, what about you, Yuri?
I don't have to keep talking if you'll just fill the space for me.
Please.
And so could you just do that?
I just really did this very awkward thing, and...
let's see.
Excuse me, this voice kind of killed me.
I suddenly just want her to be holding the teacup and actually doing the little nervous finger gesture.
Especially because I've got so many of the other gestures, why not? Yuri traces the rim of the teacup with her finger.
My favorites are usually novels that build deep and complex fantasy worlds, but a lot of people don't think fantasy is a valid, heavy-hitting reading, just like a lot of people think that, graphic novels and comics aren't real literature because they think that if you're not building real-life events and doing essentially, fictional history or, just fiction instead of fantasy, that you're not really learning anything from it. But really, you learn a lot about people and about how worlds work together and how to pick apart culture and things in fantasy. And there's a lot of relationship building that can be really powerful if, you get out of the romance genre where it really seems as fictional as it is.
And if you're in deep and complex fantasy worlds, oh my god.
The level of creativity and craftsmanship behind them is amazing to me, and it suggests that more things are possible, and it really does encourage you to think outside the box. And if you read anyone like Brandon Sanderson or, Neil Gaiman, sometimes they just really subvert tropes that you might be familiar with, which makes you think about things a little bit differently and realize that there are other options. I also heard this weird YouTube channel, Lies and Scandal. They might do that too.
No, it's joking me.
And telling a good story in such a foreign world is equally impressive because making your characters believable in a place where you have to bring the reader in to something they know nothing about is really a challenge. And some people really struggle with exposition in fantasy worlds, and so they just tell, their best friend who would absolutely know this information, everything they've learned over their childhood, so that, the reader can get it in. But some people are really good at it.
They're really great.
If you haven't listened to writing advice, is it bad writing advice?
I mean, Bad Writing Advice does it.
The one with the comics and, the overlords and stuff like that. Is that bad writing advice?
That's bad writing
So
advice.
bad writing advice
Or
is
it's called Terrible Writing Advice.
Terrible Writing Advice is a channel we both love.
Yes, it's fabulous.
It's amazing. We will link it in this episode. We will remember to just put that in for our own notes.
I will put it in my notes real quick. Yes, because it's faboo.
Because it's so good. And Terrible Writing Advice, if you've ever read a book and just been like, what is wrong with this, but you couldn't pin it down, the tropes are all there. Additionally, if you're writing a book and you're finding yourself struggling, running into a corner with some things, that channel can really help you get some ideas by showing you hilariously what you don't want to write, but also giving you some real solid what you do want to write.
Yes, absolutely.
It's very fun. And in that way of making nonfiction fun, it's very entertaining. At least we think so. At any rate,
all right, Yuri goes on, clearly passionate about her reading, and she actually finally gives us, a little bit more information about books, specific books, or basically specific authors that she's really into, because otherwise, they'd get copyright claimed for basically using stuff that they're not allowed to just casually refer to, because it's a really actually complex field.
Brendan Sandpaper and...
Oh, no, it's Strandon Branderson.
Right. I was to say, and then, Noodle Gear Man. My favorite authors.
I love them. It's like Whack Donald's.
I also love Merida Noon Parse.
Oh my god. It's like Kusala
Lagoon.
Oh my god.
All right, so
Clearly passionate.
And I just keep going on about my reading for a little while, and I do mention specific authors because the game has to be super generalized, but I get into great detail, and everyone looks at me as I sort of mutter off quietly into a corner, but in enthusiasm, like Deku, who's nervous, but I'm just kind of getting off into my own head about how much I love to read things.
She seems so reserved and timid since the moment I walked in, but it's obvious the way her eyes light up that she finds her comfort in the world of books, not people. Like, oh my god, girl, I totally feel you in relation to, like, video games and anime and video games that, like, they're just so much better than interacting with people because people are just freaking ridiculous and I just really don't like them very much. And the worlds are really complex and really interesting and they just make so much sense. Like, there was this one time I didn't sleep for 3 days straight and it was, like, so good where they were talking about the development of this goes off extensively about this world.
Like, I feel you. Fictional people are so much better than real people.
Absolutely.
They're very reliable and they make more sense when they're well written. But you know, I like a lot of things. So many things, including, like, taking care of my hair and hair barrettes. But you can't see most of the things I like because uniforms are very important. Stories with deep psychological elements usually immerse me as well. I feel like this is like a call out of them.
It kind of is, I think so.
Let me just earmark myself here. Deep psychological elements. Isn't it amazing how a writer can so deliberately take advantage of your own lack of imagination to completely throw you for a loop? The unexpected. What a twist!
Oh my god, that twist!
The twist.
Honestly, the thing, though, that has always killed me is when you really look at some authors, like Brandon Sanderson is terrible at it sometimes, and plenty of other authors are also terrible at it because they want you to know just how fucking clever they are. Even as Brandon Sanderson calls himself out and calls out other authors, you know, like, you watch them do it over and over again, you're kind of like, all right, my dude, I get it, you're smart, I understand, can we please do something else now instead of you going, but look how clever and smart and beautiful and handsome and especially lovely, and you want to marry me and you want to have all of my children, and look how brain children worked out so well.
And honestly, both of us really like it, and we will only really dunk on authors that we enjoy. Because that is the only place you can sort of get good fun from. We've aggressively gone after some authors, or at least some of their individual book experiences, on our literature channel once in a while, which is pretty dormant at the moment because things have been busy with Corona. Let me tell you.
Not busy, actually, as it were.
Things have had a lot of mental load and emotional work with Corona. How about that?
Yeah.
Anyway, so I like what she's talking about here, and I enjoy people that can subvert expectations, especially when they walk you in with a very clear expectation. You go, okay, this is fun and familiar, and then they take you for a loop that doesn't feel non sequitur, but makes total sense, but you never saw it coming.
Yes.
Those are a lot of fun to me.
It looks really good.
For a loop. Anyway, I've been reading a lot of horror lately.
Speaking of subverting expectations a lot. I read a horror book once. I think it was The Nightmare Before Christmas. I deliberately grasped something I desperately grasped something I can relate to at, like, the barest of minimal levels, because oh my god, she's been talking straight for, like, the past 40 minutes, and I'm a little bit overwhelmed, and I would like to go home now. Thank you very much. So I guess, like, in the next one, we're trying to relate to it at the barest minimal level of, like, with Yuri, because, like, my dudes, my guys, if this isn't about me, I just don't know what I'll do, because I am the protagonist of my own story, and you need to understand that my story will be talked about in College 105 now, because that is exactly the level that it is at, and everyone will be talking about it to their friends, and then eventually they will move on, and it will be in College 201, and then that is where we will start. So thank you very much for joining us. If you like what we do, please feel free, I guess, to like, comment, and subscribe or something. And then also, like, if you really feel like it, you could share our videos or something. I don't know who I'm talking to.
So someone will have something, to relate to. Then you could just give them context with the video by sending it on over their way.
Here's your relatability hashtag. And otherwise, I'm a bitch. And so therefore...
If you
want to support us, please feel free to go check out our Ko-Fi or our Patreon. We've got some links in the description. Other than that, though, I have been Scandal.
And I am dying over this. It's so good. We've been having a lot of fun with this game, and I love games like this. And so I have been Liz. And it was great playing with you. Bye!